Well, it is another beautiful day, and you're listening to your number one station, RX Radio. Fatboy here, and this is the Fatboy Show. And while it is a beautiful day, we still live in a world full of ugly things, unfortunate things, sad things happening. And I saw a story yesterday from out of Kenya, which totally broke my heart. It's one of the most gruesome stories you'll ever hear, and you might have seen it, of how a 24-year-old woman named Olivia Naserian fatally stabbed her 2-year-old daughter called Glory Njeri, and she proceeded to eat the infant, or the remains of the infant, the intestines, kidneys, and other internal organs. This does not sound like a normal thing for a person to do. It's just sickening to even imagine that this can happen. Now, according to reports, the woman in question is said to have locked herself in her parents' house. She was apparently playing with the baby when she, out of the blue and all of a sudden, became violent and started smashing household items before then stabbing the baby countless times. Police were called by locals, and they were able to break into the house. And by the time they got to the house, they found her to be unconscious. She reportedly confessed how her split from the child's father had changed her. Now, I wish we knew some more details about that, but presumably it was a nasty breakup and might have left her feeling distraught. And from there, it was a downward spiral to where she began to act like this. She's quoted as having said, "I hate myself, I suffer from low self-esteem, and that is why I killed my child. I have gone through a lot with my daughter." She is quoted as having said by the local media. And what's worse is that a lot of this was captured on video. There's a video of the ordeal, right?
By the neighbors.
By the neighbors, the people who first showed up to see what was happening. And so they filmed it, and it's been making the rounds on social media. And I couldn't bring myself to watch it. So I can only rely on the
I've not
feedback from
watched
others.
it, but I saw someone saying that I can't bring myself to watching the video of a naked Kenyan woman stabbing her child.
Or she was naked in the video.
She was naked in the video.
So, this is where I think as we have lost sight of what it means to be a community. We have people struggling with so many things, and too often we tend to ignore people. So they might start doing small, strange things, acting weird and out of the ordinary, and you don't pay attention. You don't ask, "Are you okay? Hey, you seem so much of a recluse. Do you want to hang out with us?" And instead, we leave people to just mentally completely break down to where they are doing such horrendous things, and you wake up tomorrow and say, "But we didn't see that coming." But actually you did see it coming.
In most cases you saw it coming. Today we have people who also say, "I don't like people who overshare." You see, when you ask me, "Olive, how are you?" maybe that day you're the first person to ask me how I am, and because your question seems genuine, or I've been dying to open up to someone, I may just break down and I open up to you. And because what I'm sharing is so huge for you, you have no solution, you don't know how to help me, then you become uncomfortable, and you basically leave me feeling worse than I was before, because you're like, "I didn't mean it that way, I didn't want you to overshare."
Wait. So what you're saying is that while it is important to overshare, that people who overshare then tend to suffer stigma thereafter?
Exactly, because some people will ask how you are, but they don't actually mean it. They don't want to know. They don't want to be overwhelmed by whatever you're going through, maybe because they are also going through something. So at the end of the day, people have become recluses. You don't share. You're like, even if I share, I don't want to bother people. Maybe I'm just going to bother them and overwhelm them. But we normally see the small things. If you sit down and think back, you're going to realize that actually there were telltale signs.
So it's important to share, but isn't there a risk of, look, if everyone just started sharing...
No, you don't share with... Have you ever talked to a stranger? A total stranger that you may never see again?
About personal things?
Personal things, yes.
Not really. Although the one time I went for a few counseling sessions, I think I mentioned that. That was the one time.
That is the only time you've spoken about deep things to a stranger.
Yeah, but also because I only went for a few sessions, I never got to where I divulged too much.
And in that case, it's usually safe because you're protected by patient-client privilege. I mean, I understand why you maybe have never shared with a total stranger, because first of all, you have been a celebrity for quite some time. So you risk having your business out there if you just share with people, and you started working quite young. But I have, on the other hand, when I was young, I remember I was going through something with someone, and it was really heart-wrenching. And one day I just sat at a bench outside a shop, and I sat there. I was so overwhelmed by emotion, and I remember there was this guy next to me, and he just asked me what's going on. I remember I was around 21, and I think he was quite older, and I just broke down. And I shared everything. And I remember he talked to me comfortingly. And by the time I left that bench to go back home, I felt better. I never took his number. He never took mine. I don't remember his face because it was at around 8 p.m. And I remember feeling so good. And I've also had so many people who say they talk to border riders about so many things.
And that's how they end up sleeping with our girlfriends.
No, you do not talk to the border rider who knows you. For instance, if you're using Safe Border, you will just randomly start a conversation.
No, but then you may start a bond. And I've heard ladies talk about how they get phone calls from previous riders.
Oh, really?
Who maybe might have felt that there was a connection.
Dear. That has
because while you're on the ride, you're making small talk, and maybe he's telling you about his village or his wife or his sister or whatever he's going through, right? And maybe you guys have nice, friendly banter, which happens a lot.
Yes.
And maybe after the ordeal, you're like, he maybe feels like, wow, that was a sweet person. Maybe she likes me. I sensed a vibe. And so there are instances of border guys calling
back
their passengers to see if, there's room to talk and to meet and all those things.
Okay, that has not happened to me.
But back to the issue of divulging and talking about those personal things. I know it's less, men are less likely to do it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because during the height of my clinical depression, I remember just struggling with it. I was just distraught and a lot of pain, and the emotions, the brain is just a mess, battling all these emotional spikes, and you're feeling like you're about to lose it. And I remember a friend of mine came over to my house to actually borrow some books. There's such people in this world, people who have friends who like to read books, and we exchange books.
I am people.
So he was interested in some of my philosophy books, and so he came by and was looking through them. He asked me which one would be worth reading, and so as we were there just chatting, and it so happened that was one of my bad days, right? Because with these mental things,
you have highs and lows.
Right.
The lows are so low, the highs are
so he
so
happened
high.
to reach out to me on a day when I was feeling like crap about this thing. One of my worst days, and I almost felt like telling him, dude, I'm dying here. I think I need help. I'm dying. And partly I didn't know how to put in words. Partly I was scared of admitting. Partly it felt awkward. Like, how do you tell a dude, man, I think I'm losing it because I miss her so much. He'd probably just say, there's 1,000 girls in Kampala. Why are you fretting over that one girl? She wasn't even that hot. Like, that's what I would expect to hear back. So I'd rather not just mention it, right? And I can recall I might have said such things also to another person. So basically, you just sit there, So
what you did, you preempted what this person would have said, and you don't even know for sure that that's what he would have said.
Right. And well, as it turns out, I was fortunate that I was able to get through the worst of it, and eventually time healed me, and
exactly.
I look back on those moments and I'm like, wow, that was a tough time.
It was a dark time,
but at least I can sympathize with those who are in those situations. I don't know if talking about it would have helped me. Perhaps I'm better for having not spoken about it. Perhaps it's made me tougher internally and more resilient. it's a hard one to answer.
It's hard.
What do you think?
It's hard to answer, and probably like you've been sharing over the months, you said that you found other ways to cope. You also got to the bottom of your depression, because most people don't get to the bottom of their depression. One day you just don't feel like doing anything that used to make you happy. Your children themselves are no longer have become a menace for you instead of being the source of your joy. Now they are such a bother. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to go to work. Everything becomes so dark for you. There are people in that place. And then for this lady, because honestly, I know, yes, she has said that she had been abandoned by the father of her child, but we don't know enough details to know whether the breakup had been that day or some other day or something that had been ongoing. But for me, what freaked me out was she ate the intestines of the baby. No one does that in their sane mind.
Okay, it speaks to another problem.
Exactly.
Something must be really wrong.
Something
upstairs.
must be wrong with her. And you could find that she was okay and she just snapped. And some people were saying maybe she was schizophrenic, and she has not been
Did they do any
diagnosed.
toxicology
They haven't.
analysis? Maybe she was on something. Do we know?
No, we will know as the story develops, but for now we don't know. But Fatboy, no one is going to want to eat their child like that without, as in how? Because I don't think she had time to cook the intestines. She killed the baby. After being, as in 1 minute you're playing with the child, the next minute
That's
you're
it. She was
stabbing
playing
them.
with the baby.
Yes, the next minute you're stabbing with them. Honestly speaking, in as much as we don't want to say people are using mental health as a crutch, what can you say about that situation?
Yeah, because it clearly wasn't premeditated.
No.
Something just broke inside her brain, and this beast came out of her. Well, anyway, whew. So I think if there's anything to take away from this, and really as a way of saying, hey, how can we prevent this, is to just pay attention to people, to check on people. If you know of someone that's going through a difficult situation, it won't hurt you to just ask, are you okay? And if you have a friend
okay
who's
and mean it.
What?
Ask okay and mean it. Don't just say how
and not
are
use
you?
it to.
Some people just say how are you, and deep down they're like, I hope she doesn't answer.
But that also means, doesn't it, that you also have a responsibility to maintain those connections.
That's true.
To have people around you who would care enough to check on you. Because, if you decide I'm going to be antisocial, burn bridges,
yeah.
I don't need anybody, then even those who might have wanted to check on you will be like, that's one.
No, obviously we have a responsibility to cultivate relationships and also maintain them. And actually, before I forget, when you said you found yourself unable to talk to your friend when he came to see you, I understand that men are not wired like us, because by nature we are emotional, so it's very easy for us to actually talk about everything. A guy will send me a text saying he has broken up with me, and I have a friend I will definitely call to be like, you know what, he just dumped me, we cry about it, we call him an idiot, and after that I'll be okay. But you don't talk about it because that's how you're wired. Still, being a man doesn't mean that you don't have emotions, you don't go through things. And I think it's because men don't talk about it that many of them commit suicide, because the world caves in on them, and at the last minute they feel like they have no one to talk to and no one will understand.
And sometimes all it takes is for you to intervene in that moment when they are at their worst, and you can be what prevents them from ending their lives. I think there was a guy who reached out to me on Facebook in a similar situation. He too was struggling with a breakup, and he was in a lot of pain. And I told him, yo, that's how it is. But you're gonna get through it. It's gonna suck. There's no easy solution. Like, you can hit the road and sleep with 1,000 girls this week, you're still gonna feel bad.
By the way, sleeping with 1,000 people after a breakup, I know some people say to get over a guy, get under another one, or to get over a girl, get on top of another one. But if you have not dealt with your emotions, it's just gonna make you feel even more miserable. It leaves you more empty. That's why I think after a breakup, there is the whole phase that people talk about, and then there is that phase when you're not seeing anyone. Now that's when you're doing the work.
So I think when I try to re-enter, or at least as part of my process of I guess moving on, I tried getting into relationships, and at this time I was still like medicated. So I remember a number of awkward dates I went for where like my brain was completely fried with antidepressants. So I'd just be sitting there with my eyes like this, like a zombie. I know someone's talking this, that, and the other, and you're just staring like this.
Oh God. And they said those meds do that to you.
I was like, are you okay?
Those were like,
Yeah.
Mo, you just see him there on radio sounding nice. He's such
Yeah.
a boy.
Right. And then obviously, because she maybe got the impression that I didn't like her. You know, maybe like when we would catch up several months later, she'd be like, yeah, it's a shame we stopped hanging out because, I thought you didn't like me, the way you were acting. And I had to say, oh, actually, it wasn't you.
But you see, that is you going through something.
Was the pills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you see, we deal with so many demons in our private life that in most cases, the world thinks everything is okay. And we have mastered the art of putting on a facade, of pretending. We will post pictures on social media showing that we are happy. By the way, social media is the worst today. You remember that Miss America who committed suicide, I think last year? She first posted a picture of a video of herself online on Instagram, all happy. And then she jumped out from a skyscraper to the ground.
Wow. And, you've seen the meme. I saw a meme that said something like, it had a picture of a person smiling, and then it said, sometimes this is what depressed people look like. In other words, the message being, just because someone is smiling doesn't mean all is well.
Yeah, I've also seen videos on Instagram where people say there is like that bite in the background which tells you post a picture of yourself when people thought you were okay, yet your world was falling apart. And someone posts a picture when they were dancing, gyrating, but when their world was actually falling apart around that time.
Well, let's try and be there for others, and also it is not something you should treat as an entitlement. You too have to be there for others, for them to want to be there for you during your hard times. Best of luck to you, and you're listening to the Fatboy Show on RX Radio.